All right, team, let's try this again. Third time lucky. So today I'm going to be talking to Steph Lowe from The Natural Nutritionist. She is obviously a nutritionist. You can find her on Instagram at The Natural Nutritionist, and you can find her on Facebook at The Natural Nutritionist. Plus, she also has a business called The Natural Nutritionist, so you can jump on over to her website and you can also find her there. So I actually came across Steph many years ago when she actually interviewed me, hey, Brown, to my headphones, for her podcast, when the article was going around about, gee, the paleo baby and the baby that's never had processed carbohydrates and the baby that's never had sugar and all that palaver. So I actually got the privilege of speaking to Steph then. So, as usual, the materials and content that we discuss is recommended for general information only. It's not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. So please do not be a pelican and make sure you see your healthcare practitioner if you do have any specific issues. So I will just grab Steph on and then we will kick off our chat for today. I've just moved. There she is. Let's get Steph in. Let's add her in. Shush. God, my dog's a fucking terrorist sometimes.
Oh, hello.
How's that? Is that better?
I think so. I think we're on. Love technology.
Amazing. How good is it? How good is it? So, do you mind just introducing yourself to everybody and telling them where they'll be able to find you?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm obviously Steph, the Natural Nutritionist, and I started what we call TNN in 2011. And you would know, Shan, that the space was really different back then. You have probably joined me in the whole myth busting around, you know, the low fat era and what we've seen in the space over the last 8 years now. So that's been really fascinating to see, and I'm sure we'll talk more about those things today.
Yeah.
Nutritionist.com.au and all the usuals on social media, The Natural Nutritionist. So come say hi.
Definitely. So what I would love to start with is I would like it if you could tell me something you are digging at the moment. So it could be a food, it could be a movement, it could be, getting a 3-hour block of sleep. Anything really. But what are you digging at the moment?
It's such a mum comment, but I'm digging when Grace naps for 4 hours during the day, which I hope she's doing right now, actually.
Oh, what a win. What a win.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's in the name,
sure.
But my Grace was a champion sleeper as a kid. Like,
awesome.
Could crack out a nap. She was just, I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was just because her belly was always full. But she could have slept for Australia, that kid. It was
I
epic.
love it.
And now, even still now, so she's 4.5. She still has a nap most days.
You must be loving that.
And I'm not letting it go. I am not letting the nap go.
No. Am I allowed to swear on this, by the way?
Well, I'll tell you what, you can swear as much as you want.
I will just say that most people when go on.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, most people say to me that my next child is going to be an arsehole when they find out how good Grace sleeps. How negative.
Absolutely. That's why I stopped at 1.
Yeah, good girl.
I'm not taking the gamble.
Too funny.
So I'll tell you what I'm digging at the moment. I'm digging everybody's cold sore remedies because I have been rocking an epic cold sore for about the last week, and I have tried pretty much everything. You got anything for me?
Well, I'm pretty sure you've got all the usuals under your belt, like your vitamin C. Have you tried like herbs like andrographis, echinacea?
Yep. Tried high dose lysine.
Yep.
Tried. There's a really good Pharmaceuticals product called Viragard,
yes.
Which has a lot of those, those sorts of things in there, which is really good. I've tried activated charcoal. I've tried essential oils. I seriously.
What about rest? Have you tried rest?
Yeah, no. Look, I don't have a lot of time for that.
That's what it is. That thing.
100%. 100%. It seems to be a particularly gnarly one this time too, and just won't go away. And it's probably because G's been on kindy holidays too, so it's like there's no just let's just sit quietly. Let's do all of the things. But
yeah.
So how old is your Grace now?
4 months.
4 months. That is awesome. And how are you finding mum life?
Yeah, look, it's amazing, but I'm sure most mums can agree it's that real, it's just the yin and the yang, isn't it? Between it being so amazing, having so much love, but then having those really challenging moments of being screamed at for no apparent reason. So we love her, but it's a challenge.
It only gets worse. Yeah. And so is there anything in particular that if someone had told you, you wouldn't have believed? Because I remember thinking after I'd had G, why did nobody tell me how hard this was? And in all honesty, though, I think even if they had, I probably wouldn't have believed them, because I would have thought, I feel like I'm a pretty capable human. Like, I can get a lot of shit done in a day. But then I feel like you get this kid and they don't want to be put down, or they want to be fed every 3.5 seconds, and you achieve nothing. And for me, that was like soul destroying.
Yeah.
So was there anything in particular you found where you just thought, even if someone had told you, you probably wouldn't have believed them?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of those things. And as a first-time mum, you almost want to write it down, because it's like you feel like you absolutely have to share it with your friends that are about to have kids or those next in line. But I think it's exactly what you say, Shan. Like, no matter how many times you've been told that, until it's your reality, you can't even understand it. You can't understand those memes on Facebook about 50% wanting your heart to explode, your head wanting to explode. Like, so it's the contrast. And I had a very amazing pregnancy. G has been incredible in terms of 4 months into the world. So I feel like, because of the stories I hear around the opposite experience, like whether it's challenging pregnancies or challenging births, or quite like, a hard start with whether it's feeding or sleeping or both. Like, I'm one of those mums that will probably get punched in the face one time because I've had a really amazing journey so far. But that doesn't mean it's not hard. Like, in that first week, when you literally think to yourself, have I done the right thing? Can I give this baby back? And, I used to not want to admit that out loud, but the more I say that out loud, the more...
Return to sender.
Yeah, right? And the more I say that, the more people are like, that's exactly how I felt. So initially I was kind of ashamed of that thought. It only happened once or twice, but now I know it's so normal because we're so out of our depth. And I'm like you, Shan, I've had a business, I've been doing my thing for like 35 years, and then suddenly I'm bound by this baby. And it was a huge adjustment. It was a massive shock. I'm pretty selfish, so I've learnt that, things are very different now. She's the boss, like she runs the show.
Absolutely. So you said you really enjoyed being pregnant, and actually even just through listening to your podcast, you share a little bit about your pregnancy journey and what you did to prepare your body for pregnancy. How was your birth experience? Because I think birth, no matter how good your birth experience is, it's a big thing. Were you scared of it? Were you excited about it? Like, I was weirdly excited about it. Like, I was like, this is cool. Like, I was under no illusion that it was going to be fun or a cakewalk, but I was actually really looking forward to the experience. How was your birth?
So the birth was incredible, but there's like so much I want to say to answer your question, like to do it justice, because first things first, like we decided at about 20 weeks that we were going to have a home birth. And immediately when I would share that story with my mum or my sister or my close girlfriends, I was confronted with all these societal fears around how crazy I was and how dangerous that was. And like my mum was freaking out. And even though I had done my research and I knew from the bottom of my soul that it was the right decision, I still had to work through quite a bit of fear around the unknown for me, because I'm a massive control freak, and obviously birth is where everything is out of your control. That's set up for motherhood, where everything's also out of your control. But I had that, and I also had everyone else's fear. So everyone else's sort of verbal vomit or diarrhea on me around, you know, what would I do if something went wrong? And, you know, aren't you going to have an epidural, or aren't you going to have, you know, interventions? And look, for me, that was something that took me on a bit of a journey of sort of diving deep into the fear. Early in my pregnancy, I read a book, Birth with Confidence by Rhea Dempsey, and that was the best book I've ever read, and I've since given it to all my pregnant friends. And I actually went and had a session with Rhea. It would have been like a counselling session if you were to sort of define it. And she like dig deep into my past, like trying to find where some of that fear was coming from. Like, I'm talking fear that I couldn't talk about the birth without having tears in my eyes initially. And every time I saw my midwife, she was like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing's wrong," but there would just be like tears because I was afraid of the unknown. So I went and had that session with Rhea, and, you know, we dig deep into my past. Like, did I have a traumatic birth? Has my sister have it? No friends have had a traumatic birth. Like, there was nothing really in my reality that would like obviously explain the fear. But I was a twin. I am a twin, sorry. And when we were born, my sister and I were in the humidity cribs for about, I think, 11 days, and Mum had to leave the hospital, and, you know, there's a bit of maybe some trauma around that whole sort of separation anxiety, and we kind of thought maybe that was part of it. But for me, it was about like doing the work to confront that fear. So by about, you know, probably I'd say from memory 26 weeks, I started to feel really empowered that I'd done the work to sort of dig deep into what that fear was. And then I started to really get excited. And towards the end of my pregnancy, you know, I was scared, but I wasn't crying anymore. So that was good. And I was really excited about what had become Grace's birthday. Like, we were celebrating her birthday and already making cakes and planning playlists. So it became really exciting.
Amazing. And so did you have the home birth in the end?
We did, yeah. So we ended up working with Mama. So it's a Melbourne-based organisation that specialise in, I guess, more natural births. They don't just do home births. They can definitely work with you in whatever kind of scenario that you would like to. But I personally, and, you know, Ian agreed that that was the best decision for us. So I also live very close to Sandringham Hospital, so that was always our plan B should we need anything. But I was, you know, very lucky. I had a natural 4-hour home birth, and I know not everyone's story is like that, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also very incredible because I did get my dream birth. Yeah.
You know what? I feel very much the same way. We actually, we went to the hospital, but from me kind of thinking, I feel a little bit uncomfortable, I feel a little bit crampy, to there's a baby in my arms. It was 4.5 hours, and I spent the whole time in the shower, pretty much, like, got to the hospital. And I remember actually going, when we went to like look at hospitals and they take you through the birthing suites, and I remember thinking, it's like there's a lot of nudity in this room. I don't know that I'm that comfortable with this. And I remember thinking I was feeling really self-conscious and uncomfortable with it. I remember getting to that hospital and walking into the room and just stripping off my clothes and getting into the shower and just going, "Make that shower hotter. Somebody make the shower hotter." And they're like, "No, that's as hot as it got." I'm like, "Make it hotter now." And I just spent the whole time in the shower. But yeah, it was, I think, going into the experience without that fear, I think helps. You know, I think feeling like your body knows what to do if you just get your head out of the way sometimes. And not to say that things can't go wrong and that things don't go wrong and that people need to have interventions and stuff, but I think sometimes getting your headspace right, you're halfway there, aren't you?
I think that's everything. And so I've married a chiro, so he looks at everything through that evolutionary lens, which I like as the reminder, because we are designed to give birth. You know, it is natural. It's really not supposed to be feared and dangerous. But unfortunately, in the year of 2019 and the way births have moved from that home environment into a hospital setting, where unfortunately a lot of the time you are on someone else's clock or watch, it's become feared because of the increase in interventions. And if we do our research, we know that when interventions start, more very often follow because it interferes with the natural hormonal process. And unfortunately, that is where a lot of people do get into a bit of trouble. And so that fear is what they carry with them, that birth is dangerous, which I didn't have that experience. And I know not everyone gets their dream home birth, but the mindset was a huge part, and reminding me that my body is designed to give birth, but also having all the mantras. Like, I did hypnobirthing at about 30 weeks, and that was awesome as well, to give me some other sort of mantras, just a different framework to look at birth through, rather than the lens of the fear that I was being spoken to.
So I love the idea of hypnobirthing, and I did read a book on hypnobirthing as well. For me, I am so sketchy on what actually happened in those 4 hours, because it was so intense. The thought that I could have done any sort of mantra or anything in that moment just eludes me completely. Did you actually use that stuff, or do you think it was more that you had that in your toolkit and it made you feel more empowered and comfortable about the process?
I think it's more of the latter. I think it's more that at that time I was like, I need to do everything that I need to do to feel like I'm prepared. Like, I want to have ticked all those boxes. This is in my control. So, you know, when I went to hypnobirthing, I was much further along than the other mums. So I had like another, 16 weeks on them to do all the prep, the counselling session with Rhea, the reading and all that sort of stuff. So when I went there, I was sort of like, I probably would have got more out of this if I had done it earlier. But it was like Christmas and New Year's, so I just couldn't have done an earlier session. So that was like a timely thing. But what I did get, I think probably the biggest part for me was in those sort of last 2 weeks of pregnancy, where I was going a little bit stir crazy, sitting around trying to be on mat leave. I had some meditation and some mantras and some nice little tunes playing in the background, when I was just like, come on, baby, like, I'm ready, let's do this. But I still had to wait till 40 weeks because Grace was born on her due date. So that was probably really helpful. And then on the morning of the birth, I had those songs playing. So that was good for me not to have to kind of think about it. It was a bit more subconscious. Ian came up to me one time and tried to do like the soft little hypnobirthing massage, and I was like, are you fucking kidding? Go away. Like, if there's anything I do not need right now, it's like a finger patter on my shoulders. I need something a bit stronger than that, mate.
Exactly. Like, put your elbow into my lower back or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, no, I don't need you here. I'm fine. I'm in my little cave. I'll be back. I'll let you know if I need you. Yeah.
I'll call you when there's a baby.
Exactly. Pretty much. I mean, as much as I was so supported, I did feel really alone in, like, this is my job. I was like, it's me and you, kid. Even though I had Ian and my midwife there and another midwife that came towards the end, it was really an experience of being like, right, this is solely up to me to deliver this baby. And I've written that in the birth story. It's quite an interesting experience to have lived through when you are so well supported, but ultimately it's up to you, which I chose to have that power rather than handing it over to a doctor, which a lot of people are like, oh, the doctor's birthing the baby. I'm like, no fucking way, I'm birthing this baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of breastfeeding, how did you find that experience? Because I think I breastfed Grace until she was 14 months old, and the little shit wouldn't take a bottle. So there was really no other option.
Okay.
But for me, it's one of those things that I think it's beautiful. It's an incredible bonding experience. I get that it's totally natural and normal and all that sort of jazz, but it's really fucking hard. Like, especially if, like, I had a massive oversupply of milk. I could have fed all the babies. Give me all of the babies, I'll give you all of the milk. And so for me, I had this massive oversupply. I had these ridiculous engorged boobs that were the size of my head. This kid that couldn't latch properly because my boobs were so engorged, so she's just shredding my nipples. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm sorry, when is this, like, this lovely experience? Like, this is fucking horrendous.
Yeah.
My nipples are bleeding. I'm like, people are coming to the room like, you're going to need to put a raincoat on. I am going to spray milk all over this joint. This is out of control. And then you get a midwife.
Good.
Every single midwife you talk to is telling you to do something. You need to pump. No, don't pump because you've got an oversupply. No, but you should pump because you've got an oversupply. And then feed her like she's a football. No, and then feed her while she's standing on her head. And I'm just like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
Why is this so hard?
Look, I'm with you. I wish I found breastfeeding a spiritual experience like you read on the internet, like the that find it. I think I'm purely like, I know how good this fuel is. Like, I have read every single formula, ingredients in the world. They are rubbish, unfortunately. There is nothing that is ever going to match the quality of breast milk. So I'm like, I'm doing this purely because I know that it's the best food for Grace. I don't actually enjoy it. Like, I feel like I almost feel bad admitting that out loud when there are people that would love to be able to feed and can't. But I do find it a little bit tedious, for want of a better word. I just understand the nutritional benefits and I'm committed. But I'm also excited we're going to start to try some solids. So I'm sort of looking forward to that next phase of the journey to take a little bit of pressure off me as well.
Yeah. So on that note, when do you think you're going to start her on solids? If she's 4 months old, because today,
no, literally.
I've got a steak cooking for her, but actually today.
Well,
so what?
No, literally. So she's having pumpkin from Granny's garden.
Okay.
So
good.
My husband's mother is a very wonderful gardener and she lives in Launceston, and Ian has brought a pumpkin over and we're going to mash up a little bit shortly and see how we go.
Awesome. So have you got any other suggestions of first food? So I think with G, we did avocado. I think avocado was her first food. And then we tried a few other veggies. She loved broccoli, which was super weird because it's such a bitter, but we would just give it to her like as a flora and she'd just like mash it on her face and probably didn't eat much of it, just give herself a broccoli facial. Sweet potato, pumpkin, like carrot, all that sort of jazz. We did egg yolks. To start off with, but I think avocado was one of the first things. What's in your toolkit of first foods?
Avo definitely next. I just love the idea of leaving the house with an avocado and a spoon.
So good.
Like just for my life, the ease. Also, obviously, she needs the healthy fats. And then I was going to go back to a veggie, so probably zucchini to follow. Yep. And then it's the egg yolk. So the 3.5 minute egg yolk. So cooked and cooled.
Awesome.
That's my first four, and then we'll see. She'll ultimately decide, as always. She'll be the boss. But I think, like the conventional stuff, a lot of people say to bring in fruits first, like the top of the tree and working your way down. But I obviously don't want anything too sweet to start. But bananas will come in eventually for ease as well. So I think that sort of banana and avocado in the nappy bag as you leave the house is something that I'm looking forward to simplifying things a little bit with.
Yeah, we definitely did veggies first as well. Just tried to really develop more of that savoury palate before the sweet foods. But yeah, I think ultimately whatever's going to make your life easy is good, isn't it? And to be honest, there's no such thing as baby food or adult food. There's just food appropriately cooked for a tiny human, isn't there?
Yeah, and, totally. Go on.
No, I think just in time, you don't want to be a short order cook. Like, you want to be able to cook one meal for your whole family, and the 6-month-old gets the same thing. It's just appropriately cooked and appropriately chopped so that she's not going to choke. Yeah,
pureed perhaps, or whatever. I don't know. Like, it's obviously my first experience, but I'm very open to, to that whole concept of cleaning. But also, I think you're right. Like, let's just keep it as food and expand their palates in the best way possible, avoiding rice cereal, because that's just a joke.
That was my next question. What are your thoughts on rice cereal? Because it's so funny. You see, that's recommended as a first food. What the actual fuck?
Well, it's just another example of industry getting in the way of the truth, and we've really got to be quite savvy, because I know that every mother's trying to do the best for their little one. We were having this conversation at Mother's Group this morning. One of the girls was saying how she got handed this piece of paper that was like, make sure your child has 2 cups of dairy from 6 months old, like cow's milk dairy we're talking here. And I'm like, who is this actually written by Dairy Australia? It has to be written by someone with a vested interest. Like, why would we want to be feeding our child cow's milk before we're looking at any other, vegetable or fruit or healthy fat like the egg yolks that we're talking about? But we've just got to really be mindful as to where we get our information from. you know, I think that if you were to look at a vegetable versus a rice cereal, you don't need to be a nutritionist to pick which one is better, but you have to be able to get rid of the noise that you're faced with, whether it's online or your midwife or your well-meaning doctor who's just essentially regurgitating what they've been taught.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you're exactly right. There's a lot of noise and there's a lot of pressure. And I think, you know, the pressure on mothers for everything is huge. And then when it comes to food and nutrients, they're told, okay, no, you've got to give your kid this puree in a packet and you've got to give your kid this rice cereal and they've got to have, 6 serves of dairy a day because now they're baby cows and that's what they need to grow. And your 2-year-old needs to be on toddler formula.
Yeah.
Like, just who is coming up with this information? And I think it's hard. There's a lot of noise and people don't know what to do, but they're marketed to really well. And it's really hard to market an avocado as baby food.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think it's really important just to...
No one's winning in that.
No, it's not obviously a good financial decision for anyone, but I just think it's really important that we're careful with who we get our information from. And I stand by that, whether you're talking about your child or yourself or your father that has type 2 diabetes. Like, you've just got to be really careful that you're not just stuck in Dr. Google, which we know is now brainwashed by Big Pharma in of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the focus of your kind of your beliefs around food and the way that you practice in your clinic is around LCHF, which is lower carb, healthy fats.
Yeah.
Has that always been your approach to nutrition ever since you've been practicing?
Yeah, so we definitely started with the whole JERF model, so just eat real food. And then, you know, the LCHF to me is identical as that, but unfortunately, since keto and the boom in the real food space, a lot of people are afraid of that LCHF acronym, but like, I literally just mean lower than the food pyramid. So I'm talking about not eating the 6 to 11 serves of whole grains per day that we've been told to eat that have caused us to be fat and sick and dying of lifestyle diseases, looking at real food, which is naturally going to be lower than the food pyramid. So, you know, it's not slabs of butter and liters of coconut oil, but you can eat those incredible fats. It's really an abundance of plants, so lots of veggies. I'm talking at least 6 cups a day, if not more. Quality protein from a really well-sourced source, and then healthy trees like our avocados that we're talking about, nut seeds and olive oil. It's really not that hard, but I think we're just really confused in the health space.
Yeah. So there is, I mean, keto is the new black at the moment. Everybody is so #keto. And I'm finding it interesting. Soph and I are running a lot of keto and low carb workshops, and not because we particularly think everybody should be keto or, you know, particularly low carb, but we just identified that there was just so much noise about those things and people doing it badly. There was a lot of people eating, you know, bacon fried in butter with a side of cheese, and I'm very #keto.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but you're also very #constipated. Like, that is not okay. And I don't care if that's keto. That is not healthy. So we've been running these workshops just to sort of help people realize that your plate should still be full of vegetables. And like, even if you want to be keto, your plate should be full of vegetables. So do you get a lot of people coming to you who want to do keto specifically, and how do you guide them in that framework if that's something they want to try? Or is it something that you would specifically prescribe for somebody who had, say, type 2 diabetes and needed to really kind of restart that metabolism back into more of a fat burning mode?
Yeah, I try to avoid using that word at all because of that really American model, like you said, where it's bacon and cheese, or like literally a slab of camembert for lunch. Like, so I really try to avoid that word altogether. So that's why we try and really enforce people to acknowledge that it is lower carbohydrate, healthy fat. And then it's a spectrum of where we sit. So we know that the carbohydrate grams is going to be as low as sort of maybe 25 grams a day, which would be very rare. but prescribed for someone with a metabolic condition like type 2 diabetes. And then the other end of the spectrum is like 150 grams a day, which we're giving to myself at the moment with being a breastfeeding mama, athletes, anyone who's quite active in their job or already at an ideal body composition. So it's not just a box where you put yourself and have an X number of grams a day and count your vegetables, which I think is the most ridiculous thing I've heard this year. But it's acknowledging that your spectrum or where you sit on that spectrum. So that's what I help personalize with my clients around what their goals are and also, what their carbohydrate tolerance is at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just in my opinion, a lot of people who, talk to me about keto or want to do keto and, ask what I would think about that. In my opinion, I feel like for the reasons that these people are wanting to do keto, and it's not because they have a metabolic disease, it's not because of, they're trying to limit their chances of getting Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that. It's just because they want to lose a few kilos.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, doing something like some strategic intermittent fasting is going to garner you probably, 90% of the benefits of doing keto and just allow you so much more food flexibility, allow you to get in so many more nutrients and not have that level of restriction. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, fasting has incredible metabolic benefits and you don't need to do a water fast or a 48-hour fast to get the benefits. It's just really important that you acknowledge where you're at, like from a blood sugar control point of view first. So I would make sure that person has great blood sugar control, knows how to build their plate, can get 5 hours of satiety out of their meal first, and then we can start to dabble with increasing that overnight fast by simply having an earlier dinner or a later brekkie or a bit of a combination of both, depending on what fits in with your world. So I think fasting is great. I think it helps us break down that myth of breakfast being the most important meal of the day, which it is, but it doesn't need to be eaten at 7 o'clock in the morning. Breakfast can be midday or even later if you've got that metabolic control. And so, I think fasting is great. And a lot of us are doing it accidentally. It's just about tweaking it to get it right for our world and our goals.
Yeah, and look, I think fasting is something that people get so scared of the word fasting, yet most people don't realise. If you sleep at night and you don't get up in the middle of the night and eat, you've fasted. Like
so everyone's fasting.
Did a 12-hour fast. Absolutely. So it's just extending that, like you said, a little bit based on what your blood sugar control is like, and getting to a place where you feel good about it. I think another thing which can, a lot of people kind of shit goes a bit sideways when they go too hard on intermittent fasting is when they're not eating enough food in that food window. They feel great when they've done fasting. They might do it 2 or 3 days a week, but then all of a sudden they think more is better. Yeah. And sometimes more isn't better, it's just more. And so now they're fasting 7 days a week. And in that food window, there's not enough calories because it's still important that you eat, firstly, enough calories, but also enough fucking nutrients. And if you're not, if you're giving yourself a 4-hour eating window in a day, there's no fucking way that you are getting enough food in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I've had my clients do this as an exercise. So I've got them to our window, whatever it might be, and it might be 800 calories. And I'm like, well, we've got to keep our perspective around that exact nutrient conversation. So how are you going to get 6 cups of vegetables if you're not being quite strategic with what your meals are, yeah? So you've got to, especially if you're doing a 16-8, so a 16-hour fast, an 8-hour window is going to land on about 2 meals. And so those need to be pretty bang on to make sure that you're getting all that you need in terms of non-starchy veggies, proteins and fats. So you've got to be willing to put a little bit of work into that to make sure that you're fueling your body in the right way, or you'll end up in the pantry after dinner. I can tell you right now, you'll have your face in the pantry and you'll be inhaling whatever's available and it's going to be carbs and sugar, and that will just be futile.
Yeah, absolutely. So tomorrow I'm interviewing a guy called Dr. Paul Salandino, and I don't know if you've heard of him, but he
I do.
Is he's from the US.
You have no idea how many times I've been asked that question.
So he is neck deep in the carnivore diet at the moment, which I just think, I'm like, I have so many questions. Yeah. So many questions. like, how often do you poo? Because that's one
Number
of my
one question.
main questions.
Yeah.
That's one of my
Yes.
main question of concern. But I'm talking to him tomorrow. What are your thoughts around the carnivore diet?
Yeah. So I'm willing to keep an open mind. I'm willing to keep an open mind.
You know, when you hear him talk about it, it seems like it has some interesting therapeutic applications, particularly in severe autoimmune conditions. But it seems super extreme to me. Like, it seems like the general punter just doesn't need to be dabbling in not eating vegetables. But, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm with you. I think there are sort of two models going on in that carnivore space at the moment. Paul's obviously the extreme, where he's like, plants are the death, you have to eat meat, and it's like a forever thing. And then there are people that are a little bit more moderate in the fact that they use it as a treatment intervention. So it's for people that have tried everything. They've tried paleo, they've tried low carb, they've tried autoimmune paleo, they've tried autoimmune low carb paleo. Like, they've literally tried everything to treat a pretty extreme autoimmune condition usually. And this is like a treatment intervention where you literally pull out any potential trigger to start from scratch. So it's not confusing what you're triggering to if you're just eating meat, yeah? There's no, was it the broccoli that I ate yesterday, or it could have been the onion in the satay? Like, so it wipes the slate clean, and then if you feel a lot better, then that will tell you a lot about, you know, what's going on with the potentially the lectins in the plants. But I think beyond that intervention, you can start to add the fibre or the foods back in to really ascertain what you're reacting to. So I'm, as I said, of keeping an open mind. I think as a treatment intervention, it could have some merit, but I just don't see it as a long-term intervention.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what sort of effect do you think that has on the gut microbiome to limit the food that you are feeding your gut bacteria to such a tiny type of food?
So that's, I mean, the one thing I'm really concerned of is the microbiome. So we know that the vegetables are going to provide the fibre for the short chain fatty acids like butyrate, which is that big anti-inflammatory that helps soothe the entire microbiome. They also food for the beneficial bacteria. So if they don't have fibre, they will eat the gut lining. So the actual bacteria can cause leaky gut if they're starved. So do we want to do that? Hell no. So I think it's a different conversation when we've been told to eat our 25 grams of carbs a day for bowel movements. Like, I think a lot of that needs to be unpacked, because that advice has come from a whole grains and cereal scenario. So it's very different when we're looking at, say, fibre from non-starchy veggies and resistant starch. Got to acknowledge the role of the short chain fatty acids and
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to
I am
just
too.
asking all of the questions. But there's definitely going to be a question around poo for sure. On the topic of poo, that is something that Soph and I get a lot at our workshops. And what I find fascinating is, like, as a mum, you'll now understand, if your kid does not poo in a day, you literally lose your shit. Like, the baby hasn't pooed. How do we make the baby poo? We're doing all the things to make the baby poo. At what point does it become acceptable that as an adult or a teenager that you don't go to the toilet every day? Like, what has happened in our society that people think it's okay to not go to the toilet every day? Like, why
well, I'm pretty sure he'll tell you that he does.
Coming to our workshops.
Oh, okay. So they haven't done anything about it. I think it's a taboo topic.
You know, but they'll come in and, you know, Soph and I, pretty much every workshop, I don't care what workshop you're coming to, if you're coming to a batch cook and meal prepping workshop, we're going to talk about poo. And
of course,
there'll be people who come up at the end and go, oh, I only go to the toilet, like, you know, maybe once or twice a week. And Soph and I are just like, what do you mean? Like, you are literally full of shit. Like, literally, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And I don't understand, like, why as a society, like, G and I talk about poo all the time. She'll go, Mom, I've got to do a poo. Great, mate. Thanks for the heads up. And then she'll come out. It was a pretty good poo. It wasn't a runny poo. Whereas if she's been to like a kid's party, she'll come home and she'll be like, oh, Mum, that was a runny poo. That was like a milkshake, that poo.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Oh, my God.
No, but I think it's great, right? Because that's the problem. People are so afraid. Hi, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in. You know, my usual spiel, and we start going through medical history and family history and supplements, and then we go, all right, so let's talk about your digestive health. How many times a day or week do you move your bowels? And they blush. They go all awkward about the topic. And I'm like, no, hang on a minute. I'm a nutritionist. We're going to be talking about poo. So be okay with it. I need to hear about it because it is obviously a barometer into what's going on. And I've got clients that have been on hardcore laxatives for like 30 years and no one's bothered to tell them there's another way. And of course, that is hard to undo from a dependency point of view. And, you know, we have to stop it being a taboo topic because it tells us so much about our health and longevity.
And also, how did it ever become appropriate for somebody to be on long-term laxatives?
I know. How breaks my heart.
How has any doctor or pharmacist not just gone, no, there's so many things that we need to address here because bowel cancer is probably not too far away otherwise. Like,
yeah.
Just blows my fucking mind.
Me too. And it's sad because they've obviously spoken to the wrong person who's very pharmaceutical orientated, and that's what we need to stop as being the first intervention. Like, even just try some bloody magnesium powder, or look at your fiber intake, or, you know, go and see a chiropractor. Like, there's so many other little basic digestive things that we could at least be trying. And if they haven't tried that first, like, yeah, it's just relying on a drug essentially, or even just a pill, is not a long-term solution.
Yeah, and I think like so much of the pharmaceutical industry, it creates a Bandaid. It doesn't address a root cause, which, you know, I think is where people need to look to see a good nutritionist or chiropractor or naturopath or someone who's actually going to help them identify the root cause of that problem, rather than just slap a Band-Aid on it and, you know, just keep changing the Band-Aid every day and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love so much about the Human Microbiome Project, because it's really gut testing and effective. Like, I was doing some research a couple of weeks ago. The test that we do in the clinic now that costs $380 would have cost $500,000 only 5 years ago. So we've now got access to such incredible technology to understand what's going on with our dysbiosis or our leaky gut or all of the above, which is often the root cause of why we're not going to the toilet, or why we're bloated after a meal, or why we have a skin breakout every time we eat, or whatever it might be. It's about getting that information, so going a little bit deeper to understand exactly that, the root cause.
So if somebody had, you know, digestive symptoms, bloating, you know, potentially constipation or diarrhea, those sorts of, you know, just basic digestive issues, and they came to see you, if there was one test that you could get them to do that would give you the most bang for their buck in terms of getting information to start that journey, what would it be?
If it was testing and the budget allowed, it would definitely be a complete microbiome map. So we've now got access to tests that look at the entire microbiome. So we're looking at the gut wall, so whether there is leaky gut or markers of inflammation, what's going on with the pancreas, so digestive enzymes. Then most of what is obviously in the large intestine in terms of the trillions of bacteria. If there's a parasite, is there a pathogenic overgrowth? Is there an undergrowth of probiotics or beneficial bacteria? And a lot of people have all of it. A lot of people have leaky gut, inflammation, a parasite, an overgrowth, and then, of course, no beneficial bacteria. So it's a bit of a shitstorm, but we would not otherwise know that. We would spend years trying different pills and potions and naturopaths and nutritionists without that information. So I'm really passionate about encouraging people to invest initial money. And for some, $3.80 can be a lot, but it's not when you think about the time that it's going to save you and the money it's going to save you in the long run to get that information and work with someone who understands how to rebalance the gut holistically. And there will be nutrition and lifestyle strategies. Like, it's quite surprising. It's not, but it's amazing how many people resolve their bloating by actually chewing their food and promoting that parasympathetic state before they eat and not eating on the run and, you know, inhaling their food like we all do. You would probably be the same at your workshops. Like, we tell people to chew their food 20 times a mouthful and they fall off their chair. They cannot eat around 20 times, like when they would normally 1 or 2 chews per mouthful. A lot of little things you can do, but beyond that, It's about looking at the gut.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up, but thank you so much for your time, Steph.
Pleasure, Treasure.
I think you already mentioned earlier that people can find you at The Natural Nutritionist on Facebook and Instagram, and at thenaturalnutritionist.com.au.
Yes, thank you. Awesome.
Yes, awesome. So, guys, make sure you get over there and follow Steph. She's very active on Instagram, so you can always jump on over there. She's got an excellent podcast. So if you don't already listen to her podcast, get on over there and do that. Are you currently podcasting, or are you still got a bank of
No, I don't have a bank anymore. Sadly, I'm out of my bank. I had a bank for about 8 weeks or so, but now I'm busy recording. But I actually really enjoy it, so it's good. I try and get a few in front at least.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Shan. We'll talk to you soon.
That's okay. Yes, thanks. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, mate.